They didn't just fire me, they erased me. One moment, I was the lead architect of the nation's most advanced AI ethics system. The next, I was branded a traitor, smeared across headlines with a deepfake confession I never made. My daughter asked why people on TV called me a criminal. My wife, she looked at me like she didn't recognize the man she married. But I kept the truth. I kept everything. Now, while their empire begins to rot from the inside, I'm ready to flip the switch. They thought I was gone. They were wrong. The crayon drawing was crude, but I loved it more than any award I'd ever won. In it, I stood tall in a cape, shielding crowds of tiny stick figure people from a dark, cloud-shaped monster. Above my head, in pink letters, it read, "My dad protects the world with his brain." I knelt beside Emma, my 6-year-old daughter, and kissed her forehead. "I drew this because you told me your work helps people," she said, grinning with all the pride a first grader could muster. I told her she was right. That morning, I left the house with a rare sense of peace. After 12 months of 14-hour days, the AI ethics firewall was finally ready. A hybrid system that didn't just flag disinformation, it predicted it. It cross-referenced trends, language manipulation, even social context. The government had signed off on pilot deployment. My team had nailed it. For once, I allowed myself to feel proud. Back at the office, screens glowed like altars to precision. Our control room was silent but humming with purpose. I sipped coffee and watched data flow through our prototype, clean, controlled, secure. But then a string of anomalies caught my eye. Not obvious to anyone scanning casually, but I knew this system better than anyone. Something was off. I ran a deeper diagnostic. There it was, an embedded instruction chain that rerouted flagged content to a second server. An unauthorized endpoint, not ours. I followed the digital breadcrumb trail until I hit a wall. Access denied, even at my clearance level. I leaned back in my chair, blinking. Was this a glitch? A dev oversight? No. The code was too deliberate, tidy, hidden in plain sight. Someone had inserted it post-compilation using root credentials. I stared at the screen, jaw clenched. Either someone on my team had gone rogue, or someone above me had ordered this. I glanced at the office window. The city lights twinkled like they were mocking me. I took a breath. Maybe I was overreacting. I hadn't slept more than 5 hours a night in months. It could be nothing. But still, I copied the code block onto an encrypted drive, just in case. I needed more time to think. That evening, at home, I tried to enjoy dinner. Emma was telling me about a math game she won at school. My wife, Dana, served pasta and salad, but her eyes were searching mine. "You're not really here," she said when Emma ran off to get dessert. "What's going on?" I hesitated. "Just some strange code I saw today. Could be nothing. I'll dig deeper tomorrow." She set her fork down. "Scott, promise me something. If this is more than nothing, think before you act. I know how much your work means to you, but is it worth it if it takes everything else from you?" I nodded, but I didn't promise. The next morning, I sent a confidential report to compliance. I detailed the endpoint, the suspicious behavior, flagged the logs. Within hours, my inbox pinged with a single-line reply from the Director of Compliance. "Withdraw the report immediately. This is not your concern." I read the message 3 times. Not your concern? At lunch, I approached Lila in the break room. She'd worked under me for 5 years. Sharp, loyal, meticulous. I trusted her. "Hey," I said casually, "have you noticed anything strange with the endpoint mappings, like traffic duplicating to unlisted addresses?" Her eyes froze for a beat too long before she shook her head. "Not really. Everything looks normal to me." "Can you double-check?" "Sure," she said without looking at me. Later that day, she avoided eye contact entirely. I watched her from across the glass hallway, whispering to someone in a suit I didn't recognize. Something in my chest turned cold. That night, Dana confronted me again. "You're being shut out, aren't you?" I nodded. "I filed a report. They told me to delete it. Lila's avoiding me. I think they know. I know something." Dana folded her arms. "You said this system would protect people, Scott. Now it's eating you alive. I can't unsee what I saw. I'm not asking you to." Her voice cracked. "But if this gets worse, if they come after you, you'd better have a plan. Not just for you, for us." The next day, I was called into a closed-door meeting with Malcolm Grant, the CTO, above me. He smiled like nothing was wrong, but I could feel it in my gut. There was pressure behind that grin. "Scott," he said, "we need to redirect your efforts. Focus more on public dashboards, less on internal mechanics. Let infrastructure handle security." I kept my face neutral. "Did someone flag my recent report?" He laughed. "Not flag, just unnecessary noise. Trust me, we've got it under control." Later that afternoon, I passed by Malcolm's office. His door was slightly ajar. I glimpsed his screen for a second. An email thread was open. The subject line made my stomach drop. "Urgent. Neutralize Scott Walker risk. Priority level. Red." They summoned me to conference room E, neutral ground. That alone was unusual. Malcolm was already seated, flanked by two people in gray suits I didn't recognize. One of them had a tablet in front of her, angled so I could just see the edge of a paused video. My name was in the file name. "Scott," Malcolm said, too smoothly, "we're terminating your employment effective immediately." I stared at him. "For what?" The woman tapped the tablet. The screen lit up. The video played in full color, high resolution. I watched in stunned silence as I leaned across a desk and whispered to someone I didn't recognize, "The client list is worth 7 figures if you know who to call." The timestamp suggested it was recorded 3 weeks ago. "That's not me," I said quietly. "That's a fake, a damn good one, but the voice print matches yours within 97%, the man on Malcolm's left said. "Facial mapping confirms identity." I never said those words. That video, someone fabricated it. Malcolm folded his hands. "Let's be honest, Scott. You've been under a lot of stress lately, and we've had concerns about your judgment. First, the false report. Now this." "False report?" My voice broke for the first time. "You mean the part where your system is leaking flagged content to a hidden server? That report?" The woman stood. "We'll send your belongings to your residence. Please leave the premises immediately." They didn't even let me pack my things. 2 security guards escorted me down the hallway like a criminal. Every step felt like a slap. I didn't look at anyone. I didn't want to see the pity, or worse, the agreement. Outside, the wind felt sharper than usual. My phone buzzed relentlessly. I finally checked the notifications. Headlines, dozens of them. Tech whistleblower accused of selling sensitive data. My face was everywhere. My voice, except it wasn't mine, on every platform. The world thought I was a traitor. When I walked into my house, Dana was sitting at the kitchen table, eyes red, phone in her hand. Emma stood behind her, holding her favorite stuffed lion. Her face was pale. "Emma, go upstairs, honey," Dana said gently. "Why do people on TV say Daddy's bad?" Emma asked. I couldn't speak. Dana walked over and guided her daughter away, then closed the door behind them. She didn't look at me right away. "I didn't believe it at first," she whispered. "Then I watched the clip." "It's not real," I said. "They faked it." Dana's eyes searched mine, desperate. "Then why do they have you saying things you never said? How would they even make something like that?" "They used deepfake tech. They wanted me gone. The system I built, someone corrupted it. When I reported it, they buried me." Dana held her hands to her face. "You're not safe here, Scott, and neither are we." I left that night. My old college roommate, Eric, let me crash on his couch. He'd worked at the company until a year ago. Left suddenly, no explanation. I never asked why. Now I didn't have to. "They did the same to me," he said, tossing me a blanket. "Not as messy. They said I'd breached protocol, kicked me out. I just disappeared. That's what they do." I spent the next few days hiding offline, digging through every copy I had of our old logs, designs, code snapshots, trying to make sense of what was real and what they'd altered. But the truth was simple. They had the power, the lawyers, the narrative. I had nothing but what I remembered. One afternoon, I sat alone in the park. I watched a father tie his daughter's shoes. It hit me like a punch. Emma, her first day of kindergarten. I'd walked her up the steps, badge still clipped to my belt, half on a call even then. I thought I was protecting her by building something bigger, but all I'd built was a target on my back. That evening, I checked the burner email I'd set up just in case. One message, no sender name, no subject, just, "I saw what they did to you. I've been followed for months, but I saved something before I left. It's encrypted. I'll share it, but only face to face." I read it 5 times. Then I smiled for the first time in days. They thought they erased me. But the ghost they created wasn't going to vanish. I wasn't alone anymore. The room we used was unfinished, just concrete and silence. But it was safe. No routers, no smart devices, no echoes. It felt like the basement of a resistance movement in an old spy novel. We were 5 at first. Eric, Lila, who'd finally reached out to apologize, 2 ex-data engineers, and me. The first meeting was quiet. No one trusted anyone yet. We brought laptops stripped of software, wiped clean. What bound us wasn't friendship. It was what we'd all lost. Titles, careers, reputations. One had nearly lost custody of her child after her employer claimed mental instability. Another had to leave the country. I wrote "whistlebase" on the whiteboard. "This isn't about revenge," I said. "This is about reestablishing truth." Lila looked exhausted. "The deeper you dig, the uglier it gets." She wasn't wrong. As we reconstructed file trails, backups, internal tools, we discovered that the AI firewall system had been altered far earlier than I suspected. A second pipeline existed, Spectre, that didn't just flag content. It copied private communications, flagged political trends, categorized users into behavioral clusters. "Behavioral clustering?" Eric asked. "You mean scoring people? Based on what they might do, what they could believe next." It was surveillance through prediction. And the clients weren't just corporations. A name kept reappearing in the logs. Argus Strategies, a contractor with undisclosed links to government funding. We stared at the screen in silence. We weren't dealing with just a rogue company. We were dealing with a machine that was feeding power to systems built to control opinion, not protect it. It wasn't just unethical. It was Orwellian. That night, I visited my mother in the hospital. Stage 4. She was half asleep, barely holding on to the edge of the world. "You look like your father," she mumbled. "Same jaw when you're angry." I sat beside her. "He was angry a lot, wasn't he?" "Not at first," she said. "He believed in systems, in fairness. But when he found out his firm was burying environmental reports, he spoke up. They buried him too." I hadn't known the whole story until that moment. My father hadn't died in an accident. He died broke, discredited, after trying to tell the truth. "Don't be a hero, Scotty," she whispered. "Be smart." I squeezed her hand. "I'll be both." The following week, I got an unexpected message through a secure channel. The sender was Nina Chavez, a journalist I'd avoided for years. She'd been aggressive during a prior ethics scandal. Too brash, too hungry. But now, she was different. "I was wrong," she wrote. "They used me. I want to make it right. Meet?" We met in a coffee shop that played vinyls too loud to record over. She brought no devices, only paper notes and ink. "You weren't the first they erased," she said. "But you're the first with real documentation, and the only one they couldn't control." I hesitated. "Why now?" "Because they're planning an IPO. If that happens, they get too big to fail. You want the world to see them? Hit them before the filing." She offered her platform. Front page exclusive, global reach. The catch? I had to give her names, dates, access. Back at the basement, we debated for hours. "If we go public, we can't undo it," Eric said. "People could get hurt." "We're already hurt," Lila said. "And if we wait, more people will be." So we built a layered drop. Files, recordings, verified logs. One leak, released in 3 stages. We timed it with the IPO announcement week. The morning it hit, my name returned to the public sphere. But this time, not as a traitor. Fired tech architect exposes predictive surveillance scandal. Nina's piece was brutal, clear, and truthful. The supporting files were mirrored globally, impossible to bury. For the first time in months, I breathed. Then came the fallout. One of the executive VPs resigned. Another went missing. Then the news broke. A board member had taken his own life in a hotel room. He'd left a note claiming guilt for overseeing unethical pipelines. I didn't feel relief, only sickness. I remembered what my mother said: be smart. People messaged me from all over the world, support, rage, questions. But one message stayed with me, from a stranger. I worked under the man who died. He was cruel, yes, but his son had a condition, and they threatened to cut insurance. I just thought, you should know. What did it mean to fight a system when the people inside it were just people? Truth was messy. It didn't choose sides. Late that night, my phone buzzed with an unlisted number. I picked up. "Scott," Malcolm's voice said. He sounded older, tired. "Meet me. One time. No lies." I didn't answer, but I didn't hang up either. The headlines didn't just tell a story. They screamed it. Shareholders were panicking. Clients suspended contracts. The IPO was indefinitely postponed. What took a decade to build collapsed in 3 news cycles. The company I'd once given my soul to now stood like a burning cathedral. Beautiful in ruin. Horrifying in consequence. People started talking. Employees posted anonymous testimonials. Some described intimidation tactics. Others admitted they had no idea what they were part of. It was as if the dam had broken, and all the silenced voices spilled out at once. Then I got the message about Theo. He was 23, intern turned full-time IT associate. I remembered him. Sharp, enthusiastic, too eager to please. He once stayed late to help me patch a rooting bug that turned out to be sabotage from above. Back then, he'd asked, "Do you think they'll promote me if I keep doing things right?" He was found in his apartment. Pills. Note. No struggle. The note said, "I didn't know what I was helping them build. I thought I was doing good." I sat on the floor of Eric's apartment for a long time after reading that. "You didn't push him," Eric said. "I might as well have," I replied. The lines had blurred. In bringing down a system, had I crushed people who never had a chance to choose otherwise? What was the weight of collateral truth? How many lives did it balance? I took Emma to the park that Sunday, just to breathe. She clutched my hand the way she did when she was afraid of falling. She looked up and asked, "Daddy, did you make someone die?" I froze. "No," I said slowly, "but someone got hurt because I told the truth. And sometimes, the truth hurts people." Her brow furrowed. "But the truth is good, right?" "It is," I whispered, "but it's not always clean." That night, an encrypted email landed in my private inbox. No subject, no signature, just one line. "You're next." I showed it to Eric. "Standard scare tactic," he said. "They're lashing out. You're close." Close to what, though? The following days were a blur of decrypted data, corporate forensics, and map tracing. Lila uncovered something hidden in buried financials. Offshore subsidiaries, all registered under different shells, but routing back to the same parent cluster. We chased them across the globe. Malta, Panama, Singapore. Names recycled. Directors vanished. But the trail always led back to one node, Ether Nexus, a corporate entity never spoken of but quietly connected to everything. Surveillance contracts, data scoring firms, even social media content moderators. Ether wasn't a company. It was a mirror network, controlling, funding, rebranding systems that appeared to be competitors, but were actually arms of the same machine. What they couldn't own, they infiltrated. What they couldn't control, they buried. We gathered our evidence, layered the story, encrypted backups. Then we handed it to a contact in DC, someone Nina vouched for. The data packet was routed through secure channels to Congress. Within 48 hours, subpoenas were issued, a special hearing scheduled. The system could no longer pretend. But even then, I felt unease. Something in Eric changed. He became distant, paranoid in strange ways, double-checking my devices, showing up when I hadn't told him where I'd be. Then one night, I found a second phone in his backpack. When I confronted him, he didn't lie. "I was told to keep tabs on you," he said. At first, I thought it was just backup, insurance. But the deeper we got, the more they asked. And I didn't know how to stop. "You sold me out. I warned you. I pushed the right people to leak the story. But if I hadn't kept feeding them what they wanted, they would have come after me. My sister. My niece. You had a choice." "No," he said softly. "You never really gave me one. I didn't call the police. I just walked away." But the betrayal cut deeper than I expected. When the subpoena from the federal court arrived, my name was at the top of the witness list. Scott Walker, primary testifier, Section 3B. Predictive surveillance networks. I stared at the document. Going public meant facing the machine fully. It meant exposing myself, my family, to everything I'd fought to shield them from. I stood on the edge of that choice, wind howling through the cracks of a fractured system, and asked myself the question I thought I'd already answered. Was the truth worth the price if it put the people I loved most in danger? And then my phone buzzed again. Unknown caller. No message. He stood on my porch like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. Malcolm Grant. Once my boss. Now the face of everything I'd spent months tearing down. His tie was gone, shirt untucked, rain soaking the shoulders of his coat. I opened the door halfway, unsure whether I wanted to hear him speak or slam it in his face. I don't have much time, he said, but I need to say it. You're not exactly welcome here. I know, he replied, eyes tired, but I'm not here as your enemy. I didn't move, but I didn't shut the door either. After a pause, I let him in. We sat at the kitchen table, the same place I'd once explained AI pattern modeling to Emma using her cereal as data points. Now it held only silence. You think I'm a monster, Malcolm began, and maybe I am, but I wasn't always. I said nothing. 15 years ago, he continued, I was the first to speak out against Spectre. I found the data leaks before you ever did. Back then it was smaller, easier to hide, I filed a report, testified in a closed ethics panel. A week later, my wife got in a car accident. I blinked. You think it was connected? He nodded. They couldn't prove it was foul play, but I knew. Then came the threats. My custody hearings got complicated. Suddenly I was a negligent father. Bad credit. Surveillance. I was one man against a machine, and the machine devoured me. So you joined it? No. I survived it. They offered me a way back. I took it. For my daughter. I thought, maybe from the inside, I could do more good than harm. But that's how it gets you. Not all at once. Bit by bit, compromise after compromise. He reached into his coat and slid a small drive across the table. This has everything I couldn't say before. Financial trails, memo transcripts, names. It'll finish them. I didn't touch it. Why now? Because you reminded me who I used to be. Or maybe, I said, you just realized the machine's finally cracking. He didn't deny it. I'm not asking for redemption, he said. Just don't let my silence bury the truth again. Before leaving, he looked at the hallway, toward where Emma's drawings still hung on the wall. Hold on to that, he whispered. Don't let this war take her from you. When he left, Dana emerged from the stairs. You let him in? She asked quietly. He came to surrender. To manipulate, she corrected. That man helped erase you. I know. She paused. Then, what are you going to do with the drive? I haven't decided. She placed a hand on my chest. Scott, forgiveness isn't about him deserving it. It's about you not becoming like him. We stood there in silence. Later that week, I sat across from a panel of federal investigators. Lights, cameras, lawyers, the full machine. I told them everything. The timeline, the code, the layers of Spectre, how it expanded beyond our firewalls into the infrastructures of democracy, how decisions were no longer made by people, but by patterns, corrupted, monetized, weaponized. I gave them names, but protected those who didn't deserve the fallout. Junior analysts, contractors, the ones who were used like parts. The courtroom was quiet. After the hearing, I stepped outside into the cold. That's when she approached me, a woman in a navy coat, a subtle accent. We've been watching you, she said. Not like them. We're a network. International, government watchdogs, cyber ethics councils, whistleblowers. Who's we? She smiled. The ones who didn't disappear. She handed me a card. No company, just coordinates, and the word horizon. We want you in, she said. You've just seen the edge. There's more, much more. I stared at the card. I thought about Malcolm, about Eric, about Theo. Then I thought about Emma, how she deserved a world where truth wasn't an act of war. Maybe this wasn't an ending. Maybe it never would be. But for the first time, I wasn't standing alone. The smell of pancakes filled the kitchen, soft and golden on the skillet. I moved with quiet purpose, cracking eggs, flipping batter, brewing coffee. Sunlight spilled in through the blinds. Emma shuffled in, hair a mess, still wrapped in her dinosaur blanket. "You're making breakfast again?" she asked, rubbing her eyes. "Every Tuesday," I said, placing a plate in front of her. "It's tradition now." She grinned and took a bite. It was the kind of moment I used to take for granted, back when I believed life was built in milestones, not in rituals. The walk to school was quiet. Leaves crunched beneath our shoes. A few parents nodded as we passed. Not awkward glances, not cautious curiosity, just quiet, human recognition. One even smiled. Emma turned to me as we reached the gate. "You're not going away again, right?" I knelt beside her. "Not if I can help it." She kissed my cheek and ran off, ponytail bouncing. Back home, I sat at the dining table with a fresh cup of coffee, and for the first time in months, no fire to put out. Then my inbox pinged. The sender was anonymous, but the domain was familiar. A newly registered firm, cyber ethics infrastructure, mission-driven, fully transparent. All its founders, people I recognized, whistleblowers, survivors. The subject line read, "We built it right. Now we need someone to lead it." I stared at the screen. The fight wasn't over, but the battlefield had changed. They wanted a guide, not a savior, a builder, not a destroyer. I closed my eyes, took a breath, and smiled. Later that night, after dinner, I sat with Emma in the living room. She was sketching again. This time, a drawing of the two of us standing in front of a tall building with a sun behind it. "What's that?" I asked. "That's your new work," she said proudly. "It's a place where people tell the truth." I hugged her close. "Sweetheart," I whispered, "I didn't save the world, but I kept a promise. I'm still your dad." And I came back. In a week, I boarded a flight to Geneva. The first international conference on AI ethics and whistleblower protection was held in a glass auditorium overlooking the lake. Dozens of names I'd only read in case files were now real people, shaking hands, exchanging war stories, laughing between panels. I walked on stage to polite applause. My speech wasn't fiery. I wasn't there to condemn. I talked about systems, about silence, about the unbearable weight of doing nothing. I talked about Theo, about Eric, about Malcolm, about what it means to survive without turning cold. When I stepped down, a young man in his 20s approached me. Nervous energy, sweat on his palms. "I just wanted to say," he began, "I was the one who sent the last email. The one that warned you. It took me months to build the courage. I thought no one would listen." "I'm glad you did," I said, shaking his hand. His grip tightened. "You helped me believe it's possible to fight and still be human." That night, I stood in front of the media wall, blinking against the lights of dozens of cameras. A journalist asked, "Do you think you've won?" I smiled. Then I looked straight into the lens. "No," I said. This isn't the end. This was only chapter 1.